forth, such as shared folders and network folders.
Okay.
But this is the home server console.
Now, I just wanted to, and it looks like you actually create a terminal server session back to the server console.
Yeah,
is that right?
we do. You know, we had this dilemma when we started the project on how we build our UI for configuring the server, and the way that, you know, like a typical router does it or something is they build a website and a web page that generates it. And we wanted to have a richer UI than that. And so the other thing you could think, we'll build a client application that runs on the client, and then have some sort of protocol back and forth between the client and the server. We decided to instead take advantage of something that's now available in the Windows Server platform, but wasn't available when we built the product, called Rail, which is a terminal server technology for app-specific terminal server. And we have basically just built, I guess you call it a poor man's version of that, where this session is actually a terminal server remote desktop session to the server. But the only app that is remoted, effectively the desktop, is our home server console.
It's just this console. Okay.
That gives us the ability for us to innovate very rapidly in it. It also allows us to have a great model for third parties to be able to extend this.
Okay. All right. So tell us what we're looking at here. It looks like you've got 3 machines that it's...
Yeah. So first we're looking at the computers and backup tab, which is, if you had an OEM machine, there'd be another tab to the left of this, which is the OEM specific tab.
Okay.
But in this case, this is a kind of a homegrown box, so it doesn't have that. And I have 3 machines. I have my main desktop, which is a Windows Vista x64 PC, and then I have my laptop that I carry around.
Okay. We should be clear though. Is that running Mac OS or are you running Vista?
No, it is running Vista.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do not provide. So we provide good networking support for Mac OS within Windows Home Server. You can connect Macs up and access shared files and so forth, but we don't currently provide the ability to manage them as computers or back them up.
Okay.
The other thing I have in here, because I'm running what's called Power Pack 1, which we announced at CES, I have the ability to have my computer listed in here because Power Pack 1 provides the ability to back up the server itself.
Okay.
But we're not going to talk much about that right here. So I can basically, this is the only interface required for dealing with the status of your computers and if you wanted to configure backups for them. The backup system we built requires no configuration by default. It just works once you enable your PC, your home computers. It just takes care of things, no questions asked. But if there are some things you can tweak if you'd like to.
Okay.
Obviously, you need to define user accounts. You know, in this particular case, I've only got one user account on this Windows Home Server, me, and the login name you can see here is C Kindel. That's the same as my Microsoft corporate domain.
Okay.
ID. So that I'm on the Redmond domain as C Kindel. So it's the same.
Okay.
And every time I have to change my password on the Microsoft corporate domain, because it doesn't, what was our time? Like
70 days or
70 days or something like that. I don't remember the policy. I have to just very simply go in here, right click on this. I could have just clicked on change password, but click on change password and enter that password in here. Once I do that, authentication just works.
No, it's resynced. Right.
Exactly.
Cool.
We designed the user accounts to be as simple as possible. There's not a lot of complexity, not a lot of bells and whistles. The authentication is as simple as you have read access, you have read-only access, or no access.
Okay.
So one of the things you'll see is the product tries to keep things very simple and be very prescriptive.
Sure.
Shared folders. This is the representation of the SMB shares, the shared folders that the server is serving out. In this case, I've got things ranging from my music to a copy of my music in lossless format. That's a folder I created.
Okay.
Or one that my favorite is I have this thing called screensaver pics, where I've got about a gigabyte of photos, of my favorite photos, and all of my screensavers. Here at work and at home are configured to pick up the photos from that folder.
Point them at that share.
Right.
Okay.
Which is just a nice way to kind of always see your photos. Okay. You'll notice that we have duplication on for all of these folders. That means that they are protected if I were to lose a single hard drive on my home server, I wouldn't lose any data. I'd be able to replace that hard drive and it would be restored. It's like RAID, but far simpler and far better than RAID technologies. And then the last thing that is a built-in tab is the server storage tab, which shows the status of the hard drives. you know, if you want to take a picture of the actual server we're running off here, you can see that it's got internal drive bays, and I've got 4 drives in there, ranging of there's a 500 gig, a 700, and 3 700 gigs, and that's down here.
Okay, so we can show that's this box.
It's this guy right here.
A little bit. Oops. Okay.
And this is just a PC that we got from a system builder. I've got 4 drives in it right now, plus an external USB drive plugged into it.
Okay.
And that's what we see represented in the console there.
So in this case, I mean, this is kind of representative of a do-it-yourself box.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
It is very much so.
Okay.
So, coming back to the console, you can see how these drives are represented. And you can also see that our quote-unquote RAID solution, which isn't RAID at all, but delivers the same benefits, allows me to use disks of different size and form factors. So these are all ATA or SATA drives, and they're different capacities, and they all work together. And I could just keep plugging drives. I can plug 1394 drives in, external SATA, USB. And then this is that USB drive that I'm using to back up the server itself.
Okay. So you have this concept. We didn't really talk about the drive extender technology. It's this idea of a disk pool, right?
That's right.
And you take, if I mark shares for duplication, it puts them on two drives in the pool, so that we've got some redundancy. Okay.
And this is server settings, and you know, at the end of the day, when you look at the admin console and you're an IT pro that's familiar with the Windows platform, what you'll see is we've taken all of the complexity of Windows Server 2003 and all of its richness, and we've boiled it down and filtered it down to a set of scenarios that are useful in the home, and exposed only the things required for those scenarios.
Okay.
So it's very simple. But if I wanted to, I could bring up my old favorite, MSTSC. And I could enter in my credentials.
Okay, so now we're going to do a sort of a traditional remote desktop to the server.
That's right. And so here comes and so I enter the same password I use for my home server console, and I get a very familiar looking desktop. And you'll see that I actually was doing some debugging on here, so I actually have some stuff listed up here. I've got System Internals, Process Explorer. Sorry, I got this. I have Systems Internals Process Explorer up. So you can see that this is just Windows under the covers. And so if you're an Oliver, you have this back door into the product that's going to feel very comfortable for you, that's going to allow you to go do the things. I think of it as a sandbox, or we actually use the term server playground.
Okay.
Hey, you know what you're doing, so it's very possible you could screw something up here, so be careful.
Sure.
But the richness is all there. You know, here's MMC, our good friend. Why is it not coming up? I'll bring another instance of it up. So here's MMC, and you know it's all there. I can view the event viewer, you know.
All the stuff I'd be used to seeing on a regular
Exactly.
server. Okay. So what's some of the other functionality that maybe is not shown in the home server console but is still available here? Can I share printers off my home server?
That's an interesting question. So in the first version of the product, we chose not to officially support being a print server. It's primarily because the complexities of the printer driver models and the disconnect between the inbox printer drivers that are supported on the Windows Server 2003 platform and the reality that consumer printers are a different printer set meant that the user experience for just plugging a printer in and having it just work, which is a goal that we would want to achieve, just wasn't possible in this time frame. And so we don't officially support it. However, if you know what you're doing, and most of the people who are watching this know what they're doing, taking a USB printer and plugging it into your Windows Home Server, or even via a parallel port, going to the administrator's desktop via remote desktop, and setting up the printer driver and sharing it out will work, and it works awesome. I do it at home.
Okay, cool. So we talked a lot, and you showed us this box that you built, but I guess we've got partners, hardware providers that are providing home servers out of the box, kind of as a utility. Yeah. And you've got one here, right? Yep. Can you tell us about the hardware itself?
Yeah. So this is the MediaSmart home server from Hewlett Packard.
Uh-huh.
We worked very closely with HP on the making